Hi HR Nation, it's Chris Rainey. Welcome to HR Leaders, the show where we interview today's most successful and innovative HR practitioners 5 days a week. Today we're joined by Dusti Swinney, Global Vice President of HR at ECCO Safety Group. Dusti, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Chris. I'm great. How are you today?
Not too bad. As I told you, apart from the fact that our roof's leaking today and we have a sort of rainstorm, to be honest, it's a normal day in the UK actually.
It is. We have a plant in the UK, so I'm there all of the time, and I have yet to be there when it's sunny or blue skies.
Yeah, there's not going to happen anytime soon. Maybe like twice a year, so you have to be really, really lucky about that.
Right.
Fantastic. Well, Dusty, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself personally and your journey to where we are today.
Sure. So like many of your listeners, I kind of fell into HR. I didn't start in HR. I think it's funny how we all seem to have that same story and journey. But I got my undergraduate degree in finance, and to be quite honest, at the time, I really didn't know what HR was. I think I had one HR class in college. It was the most dry, boring class. I didn't even understand what HR was about. And through kind of my evolution, I was married to someone in the Air Force. And so we moved every 2 years, and I had to constantly reinvent myself everywhere that we went. But I got really lucky in that because I was able to find different jobs in different industries and finally found this thing called HR that I started really, really liking. And so I would go into companies that were growing and didn't have an HR platform and just really build those HR guidelines and processes and procedures from the ground up until I was able to get more strategic and really take it to the next level. And just through that evolution of constantly reinventing myself, constantly finding new companies until we finally got out of the Air Force and settled down, ultimately that led me to where I am today at ECCO Safety Group.
Where did that transition happen to HR? So what was the current roles you were in before, and then how did that transition into HR?
Right. Well, after I graduated from college, we moved over to Germany, and we were over there for 4 years. So when we moved back to the States, it was really my first kind of corporate job. And we were in Northern California, and I was working for a company called EDS. And I had 5 different departments under me. I had 110 people, my very first management job.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot for a first manager job.
It was a lot. Yeah.
I had 3 people for my first manager job.
It was a lot. It was a really lot. And the departments were not very related. So they weren't similar. And so it was quite a lot. And we didn't have HR on site, but we had a really rough corporate culture. And that's when I kind of just discovered the passion for building great cultures and this thing called HR. And from there, just started looking specifically for HR jobs, and still didn't find that. Eventually went into like a business manager role or a business director, finance director, and then just started building the HR piece of it until I was really focused on the HR.
How was that, trying to find a job in HR without studying HR?
Well, it was really natural because I went into smaller companies that were growing, like maybe 60 people. You kind of feel like you hit that threshold at 60 people where suddenly you need somebody in HR.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just built it from the ground up. So it was a lot of learning from myself, attending conferences, networking with other people in the industry, and just kind of grassroots, homegrown.
Do you think that you benefited from doing that as opposed to studying traditional HR through sort of college and university, etc.? Do you think that you get more value by doing it, because as you're learning, you're implementing at the same time?
I absolutely do, because I think, as we all probably have found out from whatever we studied, the real world is very different than the textbook world. So rather than kind of having these ideas and principles about the way it should work, I was able to just say, what's realistic? What does our company need? What is the best value I can provide for this company at this time, not just in a standard kind of canned way that perhaps people have done in the past. So I think that it benefited me greatly. Plus, I've done pretty much everything, and working for small companies, you're a jack of all trades and you work across all of the HR functions. not just specific to benefits administration or whatever it is. So I think that was a good journey for me and learning process.
I think working in startups is like, if you could make it there and you
Right.
can succeed in HR there, then, you're good. Because as you said, you are the recruiting team. You are every part of that process.
You're everything.
You're everything. So
no, I make the joke that, you have to be a jack of all trades. So one minute you might be sitting with the CEO talking about organizational structure and developing your 5-year strategy. And the next minute you're processing new hire paperwork. So you are it.
Well, this leads us quite nice onto our first point of what we're going to be talking about today. One of the areas, which was, how do you become a valuable business partner and get a seat at the leadership table?
Yeah, I think that, as HR leaders, so many more companies are really understanding what that people strategy is all about these days. But I also think that we still have to prove our value. First and foremost, I think that the senior leadership, they respond to financials as they should. The bottom line.
Yeah, I certainly do as a CEO.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So when you can translate the value of your programs into an ROI or into what it's going to bring to the bottom line, I think that starts that opening up that, oh, hey, this isn't just a administrative function. I always like to say that you can have the best sales processes, the best engineering software, the best operations or manufacturing plant. But if you don't have the best top talented people that understand, not only that have the skills, but that are so positive and forward thinking for the culture, you might not be successful, whether you put all of the best processes and products and buildings and facilities and all of that in place. It's really comes down to the people. So when you're able to demonstrate that, I think, and start bringing value to the table from a financial perspective, I think that's when it starts opening up and the senior leaders start to say, okay, there might be some value to this. Let's have a chat.
Could you share some practical examples of some of the ways you've done this in your career or how you've approached this personally?
A lot of times it's not the big things that you bring to the table. It's the small things, right? It's like, sure, you can bring these big programs to the table and you can do a lot of demonstration as to the financial aspect. But what I found is helpful is bringing into the conversation, what is the industry standard or what is the trends or what are our competitors doing? Sometimes that has really opened it up their eyes as to say, no, we don't want to do this project or this program or this onboarding program, or it's going to cost money. And then if I'm able to provide data saying, here's what our competitors are doing, they went, oh, wow, okay, we don't want to be behind. We're going to be behind. So we need to catch up with the competitors. But yeah, I agree. We've been talking about it for so long, but it's still a relevant topic that so many people are battling today.
But you made a good point, though. You're using real practical examples based on proven projects, products. A lot of times, all these companies have done the hard work for you. You have you have all the statistics, you have the outcomes, you have the failures, you got all those great case studies that you can use. Whereas a lot of the mistake seems to be made by many leaders of going in and saying, "This is what I think."
Absolutely.
Based on my gut or whatever it be, as opposed to this is the reality. Here's like what our competitors are doing. Here's the facts, the figures, the analytics that support that as well.
That's right.
But it's really just how you approach it. But that takes someone like yourself going out there and, I'm sure you've had to evolve to kind of look at it differently, not just from a HR perspective, but from a business perspective as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think, and again, we've probably been talking about this for a while in terms of HR leaders and their business acumen, but it's still so true and it's continuing to evolve that you really have to understand the entire business. So the operations, the financials, the sales strategy, the sales pipeline, the products, all of that to continue to add value to the organization and to how to really position the people platform and the talent platform from a strategic standpoint. You've really got to understand the business. So you make a really good point.
How do you go about doing that? How do you stay up to date yourself with what's going on in with your competitors in the industry?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that because not so long ago, I literally put some time on my calendar for just, education and keeping updated on what's going on. And you find that you suddenly start just saying, oh, well, that's not something I have to do. And so I needed to make this meeting. But I think for me, part of the thing that I do is I get involved with a lot of meetings that aren't necessarily HR related, but if it's whether I'm sitting in a sales strategy meeting or a product management meeting, because we are talking about the competition, and in those type of departments, there's a lot of knowledge about the competition because they're out there, especially with your sales staff, right? They're out there, they're going to trade shows, they're going to a number of different venues where our competitors are at, and particularly with what we do because it's product based. So at a trade show, you're seeing what your competitors do. So I go to a lot of meetings just to educate myself on what's going on just organically within our company rather than having to reach out to it in any other kind of external way. So I find that works really good. And that's kind of what I was talking about increasing your business acumen across your whole entire business is, not just being involved where it's specifically a people related type of concept, because really all of those meetings are. So the better I understand what the sales challenges are, and then I have a sales, position that's open, I know how to better pinpoint kind of those skills or define those challenges and look for talent that's going to be able to rise to the occasion.
That's a perfect example I think you gave there. And maybe I'm stupid to assume that doesn't everyone do that? If you're listening right now and you're HR leader, go and sit in on those meetings. I feel like it's so important to sit with the sales team, sit with the supply chain team, sit with the operations, finance as well. And I'm sure there's so many things that you guys can take away and come back and help those guys along, whether it's a talent issue, whether it's, a legal issue, and I'm sure there's so many things that you can personally take away from that and come back. And rather than just being reactive, you can be proactive. And that's again how you can be more strategic, right? Rather than waiting until there's a problem and then coming to you.
That's right. Well, and like you say, you think, doesn't everybody do that? But I don't think that they do. And not all companies support that. I mean, I remember.
Now, why do you want to be there? This has nothing to do with HR.
I've had that happen.
Really?
I literally wanted to go to a product meeting one time at a different company. And I was told, you don't need to be here. But you're exactly right. Sometimes I'll hear things that will trigger and I'll say, oh, I didn't know that. Did you know that if we do that or we have contracts in excess of this amount, then we legally are bound to this? So it's
we don't have the resources or talent in place to deliver that project.
That's right.
We don't have the necessary skills that exist in the business, because what will normally happen, they'll have that meeting and then they'll come to HR and say, why not be in the meeting in the first place?
Exactly.
It's so obvious, but I know, like, just thinking about my previous companies that I've worked in, I've been in those sales strategy meetings. I've been in those, and HR was never in any of those meetings.
Exactly right. It does seem so obvious, but it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. Well, and talk about, the most successful HR leaders that I speak to, they really understand the business, not to the extent where they've done some research. They've lived it. They've worked in sales. They've worked in supply chain finance. They've worked in those roles.
Absolutely.
So when they become a CHRO, so what a better way to do it than actually to be part of those conversations. So something practical that everyone listening, all of you guys listening right now, can do straight away tomorrow. So reach out to all of the leaders within those areas. Say, when's the next product meeting? When's the next show? I want to be part of it as well. I think it's been very refreshing for them too to get a different perspective.
Oh, it is. I think it's interesting. And, sometimes we might even come up with a product idea or something. They go, whoa, where did that come from? It came from HR, because you're looking at it with such a fresh, new perspective, right? You're not involved with it on a day-to-day basis. So you're coming at it from a completely different viewpoint.
Yeah. And also, your employees are your own customers.
Absolutely.
To the business, and you're speaking with them every single day.
Yes.
And you're recruiting every single day, right? So you got a perfect perspective. Did you have a focus on future-proofing your organization in terms of, we're now HR is going through its own sort of digital transformation at the moment. Is that something was part of your strategy from the very beginning to put the right systems and platforms in place to build that foundation for the future?
Oh, fantastic question. Absolutely. So I think that I've been with a big multi-billion-dollar company, and you see when they grow so fast and none of the systems are homegrown and they're organic, and then they don't speak to each other, or you want to go out for a request for proposal for a new platform and it's going to take a year to get through that process.
Yeah,
How difficult it can
it's a
be.
nightmare. Yeah.
It's a nightmare. So I really do work to look to see what is our future look like in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and how do we position ourselves now while it's relatively easy, kind of
Yeah.
quote unquote,
Yeah, of course.
to put these programs in place now. So I'm always looking for programs and processes that are scalable, that they're relevant, that they meet the strategy, not only now, but 3 or 5 years from now, because it's a lot easier to do that while we're 850 team members strong than when we're 2,000 or 3,000 or 10,000 or 20,000.
Well, on that point, then one of the things that you mentioned when you spoke about doing the show is about how to forge the way and bring leaders with you on that journey. So can you
Sure.
share more about that?
Sure. I think that the leaders really can get on board when they see the excitement from the people. So recently, for instance, I was mentioning that we had updated our mission and our values, and we were going around to all of the plants, and we were really celebrating it. So we did it up big, and we had, decorations and balloons and treats and all these different things to make it a fun event. But what was really exciting was at some of our plants, because our CEO was fairly new right before I came in as well. And they had said things like, "Oh, the CEO has never been here to speak with us. This is so exciting."
Oh,
Or
wow.
we did,
Take for granted that things.
oh,
That
they
way.
take it for granted, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And or we did leadership roundtables, and the leaders of the business were able to sit with the CEO and myself and just openly discuss anything. And the people were just so excited about that, and really connects the company. So I think when leaders see the value of that, because the people feel connected to the greater company. I mean, when we've got a plant over in China, it's really easy to feel very disconnected, but suddenly you start connecting, and then synergies start happening, and people start reaching out across the globe and partnering, and then it elevates the whole entire company. So I think that's a really good way to get kind of everybody on board with what you're doing and trying to tie the company together in a global fashion.
Where does the future of HR look for you? Because we're hearing, AI in HR, we're hearing prescriptive, predictive analytics, we're hearing all of these sort of big buzzwords, but I'm just wondering from your perspective, where do you see the future of HR? What does that look like to you?
Well, I do think all of the new digital platforms and technology can do amazing things for HR. I think it's really important to have your strategy first, because what I'm seeing is people are going, "Oh, that's super exciting." And so they're going and grabbing these different platforms and these different technology.
Shiny object
But
syndrome.
that's right, shiny objects. It looks a lot of fun, but it really may not fit your
What are you
strategy.
solving? What business problem are you solving?
Exactly. Or why do you even need to do this? Is
Yeah,
it relevant
exactly.
for your industry or the size of your company, or whatever it is? But I think that the digital transformation could really, really help you. And really what it does is, especially with, if you look at the candidate experience, and like you mentioned, all of the AI and technology that can match the resumes to the open position, and they can screen candidates, and they can do automated scheduling of interviews and all kinds of different things, even conduct some of the initial interviews. It takes so much of the administrative work out of it, so that, because all of us are being asked to do more with less. We're running very lean, and I know our team is incredibly lean from an HR perspective, so you've got to really look for those efficiencies. So I think when you can find those digital platforms that can take out some of that administrative work, so that we can sit here and we can work on talent development platforms or other things that are going to add much more value to our organization than spending hours scheduling interviews, it can be phenomenal. I just think that you have to be really smart about choosing that technology and those platforms that work well to support your strategy.
Yeah, because that then if you don't do that right, then presents a whole nother set of problems.
It
because
does.
then you have too many data sets, and then you get into the same problem where you have all of this data, and then you're like, where do I focus my time and attention? And then you kind of go back to the same problem again, where you're
Well,
spending too much
absolutely.
time. And then where do I allocate? I've got 10 different data sets telling me that I need to prioritize them all, but where do I allocate my resources and my time and my money?
Money, as I say, not to mention cost,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. They go
So,
into it as well. So it's very important that even when you do have the systems in place, that you make the right choices
absolutely.
about what areas to improve and what's the ROI on that as well. So, well, look, this leads us quite nicely onto the quickfire round. And
Okay.
you probably know what's coming right now. We're going to ask you 5 questions. You have
Okay.
no longer than 30 seconds to give us some amazing answers. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. Bring it
um,
on.
what was the number one thing that was holding you back from becoming a senior HR leader?
Yeah, for me, I think it was mindset. And so when I say mindset, it's really kind of that holistic approach about being very focused, but being also very grounded, understanding how to weather the challenges that you're going to face, being able to handle those, in a certain fashion, and then still being able to focus on your goals. And for me, it's more of a holistic approach, like in your whole life, right? Not just your career, so that you're balanced with everything that you're doing. And for me, being a working mom in demanding jobs and with a career trajectory that I want to keep building on that, being really grounded and focused and just having a strong mindset, that confident mindset that you make the right choices and that you're balancing, I guess, life to be the best professional that you can be, as well as the best mom and the best person and all of these things.
Mm-hmm. What's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
The best piece of the business advice I ever received, I would actually say it wasn't even business advice. It was just life advice, and was actually from my son. So he is 14 now, but probably since he was 4 years old, he's just had this mantra that he came up with and was just really basic, like try, and never give up. And for the last
When did
10
he
years,
say that? What age did he say that?
it was literally, I think it was like 4 years old. He would start
Wow.
saying, try, and never give up. And I was absolutely fascinated by this tiny little human being saying this. And I think the impact, right? If an adult said that, it would just have different
But at that
impact.
age, they don't have a no.
Right.
They don't have a negative conscience yet.
They
It's not been drummed into them by society
don't.
yet, that they can't do or achieve. That's what I love about speaking to young, kids. They don't have that. They see everything as I can do everything. So
They absolutely. But I just was fascinated by that he would think that at such a young age. But,
yeah.
and I don't think you need a big philosophical, amazing theory that motivates you. Sometimes it's the absolute simplest thing in life. And you're going through something really, really hard, even as an adult, whether it's in your personal life or your career. And you just kind of have this try, and never give up. It can be really, really powerful and inspiring. And for me, especially because it came from my son.
Feel even more so. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Like that's probably one of the pieces of advice I give to everyone myself. Not in the exact same words, but it's like whenever people say to me, "I can't do it," I'm like, "Have you tried?" They're like, no. I'm like, well, oh yeah, but you can do it, Chris. Well, yeah, you haven't seen the 1,000 failures I had before I achieved that one win. You just see the win.
Yes,
But
that's
no,
right.
same with everything. And again, that's something that I learned from sales. I think that was the best lesson I ever had, in sales, where it's such a weird, strange job where you hear you're rejected, or 90% of your career is rejection. It's a rejection
Right,
from customers saying no, no, no. But to get into that yes, and taking
right.
that same set of principles into every aspect
Oh,
of
absolutely.
life, it really, really works. And I don't think I would be an entrepreneur without that, because I have to deal with failures every single day.
Well, and you hear
Um,
so many amazing stories, and I can't quote them off at the top of my head, but so many famous people that have been able to achieve success, and they would say, yeah, but did you know that I got rejected 999 times before somebody said
yeah. Oh, I
yes
went
to me?
bankrupt 4 or 5
Yes,
times. Like, we
absolutely.
talk about Richard Branson, who's like, one of the
Yes,
most successful people in people's mind. They don't see all of the failed companies that went bankrupt before,
that's right.
the company took off. It's funny. That's one of the things I love about reading biographies of successful people. is that within the biographies, one of the things I was really surprised at when I started reading them like quite a few years ago, is that all the failures that they had. You never
Always.
see that. You never ever
Nope.
see the failures. You just see all the success, and it makes you. That's one of the problems with social media as well.
That's right.
Everyone shares all the success. You never get. No one's going to do an Instagram update or a LinkedIn post about how terrible their day went, or the
All
fact
the
that they just
failures.
lost a client, or
Right. So it holds
pretty
people
cool.
back because they see, oh, it must have been easy for them. They just appeared on the scene and they're having amazing success, and I
Yeah.
can't. Here's all the reasons why. So,
Was there any books that you'd recommend, or what some books you'd recommend to our audience, and why?
yeah, the one that I'm reading right now, I think it's been out for probably a year and a half, but it is one of the best books that I have ever written, which is by Brendan Burchard, High Performance Habits. It is a fantastic book, and I think that it's really, really relatable. It's really digestible material. It's something that anybody can read. And it's really saying, how do you achieve your goals? How do you focus? How do you define your goals? And so whether it be in a business or in real life, it's just super motivational, and it's super practical advice, which I love, because so many business folks can be so impractical that they, would take years to really design a program to do it.
Like, here's what we think you could do, but we're not going to give you any examples of how to do it. I love those. Exactly. Are the great books. You read the whole entire book and you're like, that was great. I'm really inspired. Right. It was amazing. But then how do I do it?
Exactly.
Well, that's great. It's got practical example. Maybe I should get him on the show.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Well, first of all, I will link it in the description for everyone to get the book, but I'll also try and get him on the show as well. So thanks for recommending that. What about for you in terms of, if it was on your phone or on your web browser, where do you spend your time? What are some websites, resources that you use to stay up to date at current events or stay organized?
Yeah, for me, I don't think it's any one resource. I think the great news is that with all of the digital information out there, you can research anything. So recently, for instance, we were going through a process to get a new talent development platform, digital platform. So it's so great because you can just Google it, you can understand the companies, you can research the companies, you can look at reviews.
You couldn't do that before, could you? Amazing, right?
You couldn't do that. So I think for me, it's just kind of where we're at. I don't have a ton of time to just, spend looking at those resources. So it happens to be whatever I'm researching in the moment, or, you see a new law pop up and you want to look for that, or all kinds of different things. So I wouldn't say one thing, but the value of Google is fantastic.
And then last question, what's one thing around your current business that you're most excited about?
Well, I'm currently most excited about I was explaining before, kind of as our company has grown and evolved and truly a global company, we're tying ourselves together as a global company for really the first time. And that's really exciting. Yeah. So exciting. I love going around the world and interacting with our team members in so many different countries. And we have so much amazing talent out there. And how do we all work together to make the company successful? And you walk into any facility in the world feeling like it's an ESG facility, despite whatever brand that they sell, and people are feeling that for the first time. So all of the things that we're doing surrounding that, we're going to do some global spirit weeks this year, and some really
that's what a great just the name of the initiative alone. Yes. The Global Spirit Week. Is that something you named, or is that a standard thing, or did you name that?
No. That's just something that I guess just for me made sense to call it. But basically,
I love it.
Celebrating one of our values each of the 5 days of the week, and figuring out how we can do that on a global basis.
And you do it every year, or is that something you're going to do every year?
I don't know. I like that.
Every week. You should do Global Spirit Week every year, once a year. Global Spirit.
I like that.
And
I like that. We
part of its own brand.
We might. It's going to be the kickoff this year, but it's really to continue to integrate our mission, our values into our company, and to tie us together globally. And we also like to integrate a lot of fun into the business too.
Cool, you've got to do that too. It's always great when you're achieving results and having fun at the same time.
You have to, right? So that's what I'm really just excited about, is continuing to grow as a global platform and just tie together and interact with all the amazing team members we have all over the world.
Amazing. Well, look, Dusty, I really appreciate you taking the time out to join us. I really enjoyed our conversation. I love your energy, by the way. I think you've woken me up from my lack of sleep. as well. So like you energize me. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing
Oh, thanks for
your
having me.
journey, your experience, your insights really means a lot to the listeners and for me. The show we wouldn't have a show without people like yourself. So I appreciate you coming on
Thank
to share your
you.
journey and insights with us. And I'm really excited to get to know you over the coming years and to follow the work and the progress that you guys are doing. I'm really excited for you.
Oh, thank
You're
you.
definitely in the right company, and then the company's lucky to have you as well. So
Oh,
really
thank you.
excited for you and the team. And before we part ways, if there's one parting piece of advice for the HR leaders listening to the show and people developing in their career journey, what would that be? And also the best way for our listeners to contact you if they have any questions or want to connect.
Yeah, so if they want to contact me, the best place is on LinkedIn. So happy to connect with listeners, love connecting with HR people, talent people, all kinds of strategic people in business. So that would be great. And I think the parting words, especially for HR, is just follow your dreams, whatever that is, and make it happen, show value to the company. And don't let those roadblocks stop you. Find ways to continue to go around those and be as successful as you hope to be.
Fantastic. Well, guys, as always, if you head over to hrleaders.com, you'll find the show notes from the episode. Everything we discussed will be linked there. Apart from that, Dusty, thanks again. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks, Chris. Me as well.